So our guest for tonight is Brad Whittington. Let's talk a little bit about the new series. And what's the title of the book that I see there laying on the counter in blue?
Open Season.
Okay, so what is that about? Can you tell us what it's about without giving us too much information, but without making it a little bit tantalizing?
Well, yes, it is.
Like a synopsis.
Yes.
That you love to write.
The back cover.
Yes, I could just read the back cover. Thank you for that suggestion. Oh, I need my glasses for this one. Burford Oswald Wiggins follows a code. That's why he's about to marry the wrong woman again. When Burr finds himself accidentally engaged to Amelia for the third time, he leaps from the frying pan of Austin and absconds to the Payne Ranch in Bolero, Texas. But far from being the blissful autumn retreat of Burf's dreams, the ranch abounds with plotters and strategists. There's the battle to the death for dominance in Bolero society, the secret search for Pancho Villa's lost treasure, and the attempt to sell Tiny, a stud bull with performance anxiety. Burf's arrival starts a chain reaction that disrupts the delicate balance of the four couples staying at the ranch for the weekend. Suddenly, it's open season on four confused guys. If you can't set things straight, Burf will be married to the wrong woman before the year is out.
So basically, this is autobiographical.
Yes.
Did you find Pancho Villa's gold?
Yeah. That's where I got this jacket. And the sombrero.
I was going to say, he's wearing a poncho made of gold.
So take us a little bit into this process. I mean, you decide to write this completely wacky, crazy novel set in Texas, open season, and take us a little bit through the creative process that took you to the finishing of that book. But first, how you created the book and how you came up. To me, and this is fairly selfish question for me. It's very hard for me to write and to find and to figure out plot ideas. Mm-hmm. Like a plot idea for a short story that I'm writing right now. Guy leaves apartment to get a haircut and find food. That's it.
Obviously not autobiographical.
So far.
So, please go into that for me.
I got the idea for this book in 2006 to bring the Jeeves stories, which the first one was written in 1917 in a short story collection called The Man with Two Left Feet. And the last of the 19 Jeeves books was published in 1974, Ants Aren't Gentlemen, in the U.S. called The Catnappers. So there are 19 of these novels, but they're all set in the 1920s and 1930s, upper society, British culture, an idiot, young, rich guy, and a smart butler that gets the idiot out of trouble. And so I thought, there's wacky, and talk about insanely complicated plots, these things. Woodhouse himself said once he finished a book, he had to lie down with the cold cloth over his forehead for about 2 weeks to recover. So they're and I also have a lot of trouble with plots. So do
you hide that by making them exceedingly complicated?
No, I usually hide it by dazzling people with my
charm.
Badinage, right? But in this thing, I actually had to have a plot. I read all 19 Jeeves books and outlined them. So I identified 4 elements that are essential for that style of book. And one of them was the protagonist has this chivalric code that he clings to, even though it's completely out of date for his contemporary culture. And I thought, how can I give a 21st century 20-something guy in Texas that code? And it hit me, the code of the West is just a transplanted version of the code of chivalry that the knights had. I decided that this guy, his grandfather gave him a Lou L'Amour book, Sackett's. And there's 19 books in the Sackett series. So then I read all 19 Sackett books
and you outlined them.
And made a character list and collected quotes from them because I knew my main character was going to quote Tell Sackett frequently.
So a little backstory on Brad Whittington, our guest here tonight. He's completely insane.
He's a speed reader too, apparently.
Yeah. The only way to keep from going crazy is not to fight it.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't suffer from insanity. I enjoy it every day.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of work overhead in this thing, and then based on that, I constructed an insane plot. I mean, you heard the elements. You've got the bull that won't reproduce. That Dr. Payne's trying to foist off on another guy who showed up to secretly steal the Pancho Villa's gold from him, and you got this one couple who's mad because of this, and another because of that, and then so you got these 4 couples that get rearranged as all these things happen.
But how do you keep up with all these things that are happening? How does it make sense to the reader? How do you divide all this? I mean, it seems like there's so much happening. Is it like you time it in your head? I'm going to spend a 6 paragraph on this thing and then a 6 paragraph on this thing and then move on?
No, not quite like that. More like chapters, but a lot of the stories interact. The main story is Berth accidentally gets engaged to Amelia, and he leaves Austin and goes down to the Bolero Ranch, the Payne Ranch in Bolero, where he then accidentally gets engaged to Zoe. His job was to take engagement ring down to give to Chip, his college buddy, so that Chip could propose to Zoe. But he ends up getting engaged to Zoe, and so now Chip is upset. Then there's a chain reaction of what each person does. So the stories intertwine.
It seems outrageously difficult for me to pull off as a writer.
Well, let me give you a very short clue of my process. First drafts, martinis and cigars. Revisions, coffee and tea.
I like that. I like that.
Put that on a T-shirt.
Do you spike your tea and your coffee, though?
No. You have to have your critical thinking skills back for the revision stage.
Brett, so with characters, as far as their development is concerned, when you start doling out the first draft and everything, how do you keep track of the characters? Do you build like a dossier, or just keep like a memory in your head, like I have this character, and then measure out their importance or what have you? Or
no, actually, when I first started this project, for the development side of things, I worked with another writer by the name of Ian Rogers, and so we have 4 couples. And I said, okay, I'm going to create 2 couples. That's 4 people. You're going to create 2 couples. And that saved me the work of having to develop 8 people. But we did write out backstory, what's their history, do they like peanut butter and toast, or, that kind of thing on each of the characters. And then I've got that bio, and I keep track, and any information that I get, I look back at that.
Something I wanted to ask you in regards to open season, because you've got a lot of characters, right? And with that many characters, how did you not make a lot of them sound the same in dialogue? I love writing dialogue, but one of the things that I always struggle with is
differentiating.
Yeah, differentiating dialogue. If somebody's from a different place, you got to figure out how people from that place talk, right? So you got to know not only who these characters are, but the way that they sound and how that affects them. So how the heck did you do that?
The characters are fairly well differentiated as far as background and age, that kind of thing. But it's still a struggle. Particularly, I've got 4 20-something guys.
That's the struggle, right? 4 20-something goes.
Well, nobody talks like Berth, so that's fine. Berth is his own animal as far as how he talks. And so then there's one that's a pediatrician or an intern.
So did you read all pediatrician books and
did.
Outline them?
I actually stole the soul of a pediatrician in the middle of the night.
But you can't just walk up on them while they're awake. You can't do that.
No.
They're ready for you.
Because they work with kids all the time. Exactly. They got to be on their feet.
Yeah, please. Oh, yeah.
We've talked about the book a lot. I'd love to hear a couple of pages. I see you're holding them already. You're ready to go.
He's in full costume.
I know.
He's going to perform the book.
Do you want to give us any background on this, or do you just want to jump into it?
I'll give you a short background, and that is the opening of open season is all these various couples converging on this one ranch in the hill country.
And this is all safe for community radio, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So this is one of the characters, Yvonne, whose husband sometimes calls her Yvonne to annoy her. They're coming in to the ranch. It seemed like every other day, J.L. Martinez boasted about being a self-made man, and Yvonne thought it was decent of him to take all the blame instead of trying to shift it onto someone else. She squinted into the sunset and filed her nails as J.L. drove the Lexus LX 570 west. With the San Antonio traffic, it had taken them over an hour just to get as far as Hondo. J.L. was about to get on her last nerve in his lectures about how she should behave in respectable company. And no stories about your Uncle Thibodeau and growing up on the bayou. It may look like we're headed out the middle of nowhere, but we're spending the weekend on a 70,000-acre ranch, not in a trailer park. Yvonne smoothed out a jagged spot on her pinky nail. Well, maybe I should just wait in the car with the AC running. JL slapped the steering wheel. That's just the kind of smart aleck remark I don't need this weekend. The important thing is to stay positive. We aren't driving all the way to Bolero so you can spend the weekend boring everyone with your personal problems. Of course not. JL never wanted to talk about problems, personal or otherwise, in company or alone. He had built his own business from the ground up, starting when he was still an undergrad at UTSA, tackling problems left and right. But ask him to talk to the boys about a problem at school and prepare to have your head taken off. Yvonne opened a bottle of nail polish, Pole Dance Red, and pulled the brush out. Only half a bottle left. She made a mental note to buy more. Why exactly am I here, anyway? God bless America, Yvonne. She hated it when he called her that, the pronunciation she had left behind when she left the bayou for Texas. It meant he thought she had done something stupid. JL rolled down all the windows at once with a single push of a button, turning the car into a wind tunnel that undid 2 hours at the hair salon in 2 seconds. Are you trying to gas us all? Yvonne cut her eyes over at JL, built like an oil drum with a crew cut, forest green polo pullover, and khakis. What did he know about the effort required to put your best foot forward after 2 kids and a lifetime of pleasing everyone except yourself? Sometimes she thought that if it wasn't for the kids, she'd just beat a trail back to Louisiana and let JL see how long he could last without her. That would fix his wagon right good. Wouldn't be 48 hours before he'd be on the phone begging her to come back. The only reason she didn't was because she knew it wouldn't be 24 hours before she'd be clawing the screen off the door of her parents' house to escape. That was the reason she'd hooked up with JL in the first place, back when he was thinner and nicer. She screwed the top back on the polish, tossed it in her purse, and threw the purse on the floor. Tell me again why you dragged me out here. I don't know the first thing about cows. It's a bull. Champion line. Yvonne rolled up the one window she had control over. Well, good for him. Why couldn't you just drive up here by yourself and pick him up? It's how these old-timers do business. Bring in the family, wine, dine, soften them up for the negotiations. The trick is to play along, keep Payne happy, thinking his tactics are softening us up, and at the end, you close in for the kill. Sure, Jose, just like that deal on the emus. She saw him wince, but knew he wouldn't say anything. He hated being called Jose just as much as she hated being called Yvonne. What? I got a good deal on those emus. 50% of market value. Market? What market? Well, who knew the emu market would tank? Duh, I don't know. Maybe the guy who dumped them on you right before it tanked? Never mind that. The beef market has been stable for centuries. Tiny is a grand champion from excellent breeding stock. All we have to do is get him down on the price. It's a no-brainer. Then you're the right man for the job.
Thank you, Brad.
Pole Dance Red.
Pole Dance Red. I had to walk. People in Radio Land and Sherry from New Hampshire, if you're still listening, if you're there, I had to walk away from the microphone.
He did.
I was on the verge of a snort laugh while he was reading his fine works here.